Stuurt daar Kool op links weg, dan komt de voorzet en de Cruijff is scoort, het is goal! 2-0 van de juweel van het doelpunt.
Everyone knows Johan Cruijff. He's without a doubt considered as the greatest football player ever in Dutch history. As an inhabitant of Amsterdam, he started off his career with the local football club Ajax. Later he joined the ranks of Barcelona, where he became a worldwide known superstar. But the Dutch will mostly remember him from the games he played and the goals he scored for the Dutch national football team. It is of course indisputable that he is incredibly popular with a large part of the Dutch people, and that he is considered as one of the best products the Netherlands has ever produced. But our question of today is, can he also be considered as a national hero? And why?
The general image of Dutch national heroes is that of artists like Johannes Vermeer or Rembrandt van Rijn, admirals and explorers such as Michiel de Ruiter or Willem Barents, or scientists like Christian Huygens and Antonie van Leeuwenhoek. The majority of these men lived during the Dutch Golden Age and thus represent the flourishing days of 17th century Dutch history. The commemoration of these national heroes takes place on different levels in the public space. First of all, there is a traditional way of commemoration by the building of statues and monuments. These national monuments were for the most part built from the 19th century onwards and have now become so familiar to us that they often go unnoticed. This form of nationalism that takes place under the surface in our everyday life is what Michael Bielig calls banal nationalism. Perhaps a more noticeable way in which national heroes are being reframed into the collective memory is the production of television shows and movies revolving around national heroes. One example of these kind of movies in recent years is The Admiral, that tells the story of the heroic role of Michiel de Ruiter in the battle against the English in the 17th century. This movie was heavily criticized because it showed a too prosperous image of the Dutch Golden Age, completely neglecting the dark pages of Dutch slave trade. Another example of how national heroes are flagged is a recently published series of children's books called Holland's Heroes. This series of illustrated books highlights 15 national heroes and aims at introducing national history to children in an easily accessible form.
Most of these discussed forms of representations of national heroes are top-down constructions. It is clear that the state plays an important role in this process. Could such a role of the state be perceived when we look at national sport heroes? Could we state that sport icons are also a type of national heroes? In any way, an important difference between the two construction processes is probably that the construction of sport heroes happens bottom-up instead of top-down, like in the case of the old national historical hero. If we look at the question if sport heroes could be national heroes, we go back to the oldest people that had their version of sport heroes, the ancient Greeks. We see that the sport hero is perceived as a myth or even as a half-god, like Heracles. We could make a comparison with the time we live in at this moment. Sport heroes are often represented as a half-god in the media. This shows the significance, the influence of the sport hero. If we look at Cruijff, we could see such a representation of a half-god. His nickname, the Godfather of Football, a Dutch television series about him, songs about him, all together represent him as a hero. But more important, we see a connection between the state and him as a hero. There has been an election of the greatest Dutchman. Cruijff was one of the people that ended high on the ranking list. Moreover, Cruijff has been awarded with the rank as a Knight in the Order of Oranje-Nassau and Officer of Oranje-Nassau, because of everything he has done for the state at the domain of sport and society. And now that he is very ill, it was our Prime Minister, Rutte, that was one of the first persons to write him a support letter.
decided to go to the old neighborhood of Johan Cruyff, where he was born and raised. We actually stand in front of the old house of Johan Cruyff, which you can see over here. So this is where he lived. 2 years ago there were some plans to make a museum of this house, but nowadays it's just a normal house where people live. You can still see the small reference, still here. Now we're going to do some street interviews to actually find out what people think of Johan Cruyff and if they consider him as a national hero. Let's do it!
Je bent voor ons de beste van de hele eeuw. Je bent voor ons de Nederlandse leeuw. Je bent een standbeeld.
Wat vindt u van Johan Cruyff? Ziet u hem als held?
Ik zie hem niet als held.
Nee. Wat betekent Cruyff voor u persoonlijk?
Een heel goede voetballer.
Goeie voetballer.
Ja.
Maar verder appelleert hij niet aan nationale gevoelens.
I've grown up watching videos of him on YouTube, and I know what happened in pretty much every match in the World Cup 1974. So he actually plays a very important role in my life. When I was younger, I always wanted to have number 14 on the football field, because Johan Cruyff had number 14. And I think that, like for every Dutchman, I'm very proud of him. He's like a personal hero for me.
Yeah, do you see him as a national hero of the Netherlands?
Yes.
And why?
Yes, of course. Well, because everywhere you go in the world, pretty much, people know Johan Cruyff. I've been to Thailand or Africa and I say I'm from Holland, they'll say, oh, Johan Cruyff, all right. Everybody knows him. He represents our country to the rest of the world.
So you think he's a real national hero?
I think so, yes, because I think he is someone who gives the Dutch a good name in the rest of the world. People think of him when they think of Holland, and they think of him in a positive way. They think of him as, someone great, a great person, a great player who originated from the Netherlands.
Okay,
so
interesting.
I do believe that he has done a lot of things for our country in a good way.
Yeah, sure. But is it just because of his football skills, or also because his personality, or because he appeals to Dutch people?
Well, I think mostly because of his football skills. I don't think he has a typical Dutch personality. I mean, there's some arrogance in him, which is part of his personality that can be seen as a positive as well, because it makes him special, especially for a Dutchman. I think that his personality has a lot to do with him becoming so famous and playing such an important role in Dutch football and Dutch history because of it. But I think it's his footballing skills, which were pretty much unparalleled. I mean, he is mentioned in the same sentence usually with Pelé and Maradona, the best players in the world. He's one of the best players of all time. Not just one of the best Dutch players of all time, but one of the best players of the world of all time. And I think that's what he will be remembered for.
Who means the most for the Dutch national identity? Do you think people like Rembrandt, Michiel de Ruiter, or Willem van Oranje, or Johan Cruyff?
Well, I think when you look in the history books, it's definitely Rembrandt and Michiel de Ruiter. But nowadays, I think a lot more people know Johan Cruyff, and they can identify more with him than a Michiel de Ruiter because it's so long ago.
Do you see Johan Cruyff only as an important sportsman, or is he more than that?
He's an important sportsman, and because he's that famous, he has made that everyone in the world knows the Netherlands.
You don't think that we have Dutch national heroes?
Not that big.
Not that big, okay, thank you.
There is no one that will deny that Johan Cruyff was an extremely talented football player and probably the best player in Dutch history. Also, he is known for his many famous quotes, for being a person that stands close to the people and for having a special personality. But that does not mean that he is a national hero for all Dutch people. Some even don't believe that great Dutch national heroes actually exist. This could maybe be a consequence of the fact that Dutch people are in general more down to earth and less passionate than, for example, in Argentina or Brazil. We have to make sure, however, that we are careful with these national stereotypes and generalizations. We think that there are indeed some elements that show how Johan Cruyff has been celebrated as a national hero, Examples are songs, a television series about him, and his high ranking in the Greatest Dutchman competition. In recent years, there were also some voices in favor of a Johan Cruyff museum in his old house and a Johan Cruyff statue in the Amsterdam city centre. Most of these examples are, however, more or less bottom-up. That's why we think he's not yet fully canonized by the nation state as a national hero. We do believe, however, that after his death, this canonization could happen. The recent news of his severe illness and the numerous shocked reactions already proved that he actually means a lot for the Netherlands. The Dutch historian Lotte Jensen believes that Johan Cruyff is one of the few contemporary famous Dutch people that will still be remembered in 200 years. Only if this would be true, we could put him on the same level as heroes such as Michiel de Ruiter, Willem van Oranje and Rembrandt van Rijn.